Excellencies, eCAMCA network members, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2021 eCAMCA Forum. Normally, we would have been live in Almaty, Kazakhstan, because this is not yet possible. That will happen instead in 2022. In the meanwhile, we're welcoming you to a whole week of eCAMCA Forum activities that we hope you will enjoy. I'd like to say a few words about the eCAMCA Forum, the eCAMCA Network, and the eCAMCA region to start. The eCAMCA Forum was first started in 2015. It is a yearly event based on the eCAMCA Network. It's a conference that allows network members to meet, but importantly, also seeks to involve a broader audience in discussions of the eCAMCA region. The eCAMCA Forum has met in Almaty, in Astana, in Ulaanbaatar, in Tbilisi, in Dushanbe, in Baku, and in Tashkent. It is organized jointly by the eCAMCA Network, the Rumsfeld Foundation, and the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute. The eCAMCA Network is the association of the alumni of the Rumsfeld Fellowship at the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute in Washington, which is a twice-yearly, 6-week fellowship for emerging leaders, primarily but not exclusively in business and government. It is based at the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute at the American Foreign Policy Council on Capitol Hill, and it is supported by the Rumsfeld Foundation. This fellowship started out as a way for young leaders in the region to experience high-level meetings in Washington, D.C., and to bring the region and America closer to each other. Now, only with time did it become clear that the fellowship produced another, equally important function. It brought these young leaders together, across boundaries in the region in ways that no other initiative has done, to my knowledge. In fact, if you talk to young business leaders, young government leaders in the eCAMCA region, they have rarely traveled to each other's countries. They may have been to Paris, or to Dubai, or to Singapore, but very frequently they have not visited the capitals of their neighboring states. In short, the young leaders of this region did not know each other before the Rumsfeld Fellowship and the eCAMCA Network came into existence. And the fellowship has played a really important role in changing this state of affairs. Initially, it really did so only for each cohort of 8 to 12 individuals who come to Washington. But very soon, the members of the network decided they wanted to have yearly reunions. The first one took place in Batumi in Georgia in 2012. And as these reunions happened, a real network began to form, now with over 200 members. And the alumni created the eCAMCA Network, but they also realized that their meetings were of such a quality that they would benefit a broader audience, and that also their own discussions would benefit from inviting interesting people from within the region, as well as from outside the region to take part. This is how the eCAMCA Forum was born, a sort of emerging Davos of the region. Now you may ask, if you're not familiar with this part of the world, what is the eCAMCA region? It doesn't appear in school books. It doesn't appear in the geographic divisions of international organization, but it exists. The eCAMCA region is a large region of 10 small and mid-sized countries that are surrounded by great powers in the heart of Eurasian continent. eCAMCA stands for Central Asia, Mongolia, Caucasus, and Afghanistan. It is bounded by Russia to the north, China to the east, the Indian subcontinent, and Iran to the south, and Turkey and the Black Sea to the west. What is really important about the eCAMCA region is that talking about eCAMCA rejects the old divisions of the Cold War era. The eCAMCA region embraces Afghanistan and Mongolia, which historically have had close ties with Central Asia, in fact, been part of Central Asia, but artificially separated from Central Asia by Soviet era boundaries. Talking about the eCAMCA region also rejects the division of Europe and Asia that some people are keen to make, a division that would put the Caucasus firmly in Europe and Central Asia equally firmly in Asia. In this regard, the eCAMCA region is truly transcontinental. In fact, many of us, myself included, believe that eCAMCA should serve as an inspiration to many bureaucracies. Many of the bureaucracies, government or international, have antiquated ways of bureaucratically dividing the world. And this really focuses either on how great powers relate to each other or the concerns of that particular organization, and they don't even overlap. The World Bank and the EU, for example, separate Afghanistan from Central Asia. And by doing so, they ignore the increasing connection between Central Asia and Afghanistan, and in fact are impeding the reconnection between them rather than helping it. The Department of State in the United States separates the Caucasus from the south, from Central Asia, creating a kind of imaginary barrier across the Caspian. Almost everybody lumps Mongolia with the Far East, ignoring that it's a Central Asian country far from the Pacific Ocean. Look at the US National Security Council, which for a long time joined Afghanistan and Central Asia together with South Asia when the US was focused on Afghanistan. With this new administration, it has shifted to great power competition and put it back with Russia, which the State Department doesn't do. I could go on, but I won't. The point is that looking at the world through the prism of eCAMCA offers an alternative. It means looking at this part of the world, at this region, from the inside out, rather from the outside in. Now, moving on to this conference. This year's conference focuses on the economic prospects of the eCAMCA region. This theme does factor in the reality that we are in a global pandemic. Still, some of us, as in the United States, are gradually, or think we're emerging from it. Other parts of the world are not. But the conference really looks beyond the pandemic. In fact, before the pandemic, the eCAMCA region was experiencing unprecedented dynamism. Many parts of the region had long rested on rents from oil and gas, but shocks in the oil price over the past decade and changing global markets have made it clear that this was no longer feasible or even sustainable. Countries needed to change, and governments realized that change was needed. Change to make their countries more hospitable to investment, to make trade flow easier across boundaries. In some, the countries of the region realized that they needed to open up to each other in a way that they hadn't done significantly for almost 30 years. In fact, they needed to work jointly to compete for trading routes, and they needed to work jointly to make the region, rather than any single country, appealing to large corporations that may be interested in a market of 100 million people or more, but were wary of regulatory, customs barriers, and others that separate these countries. Reform, of course, is never easy, but reform was beginning to happen across the region in meaningful ways, and regional leaders began to talk to each other like they'd never done before, without the presence, I should add, of great powers, Western, Russian, Chinese, or otherwise. The most well-publicized type of regional cooperation began to develop in Central Asia, but it equally happened between Central Asia and Afghanistan, as well as between leaders in Central Asia and the Caucasus. In this conference, we will explore how this process is faring, if it can be reaffirmed, and what it means for outsiders and well-wishers of the eCAMCA region. We will have programs each day of this week. They will include keynote interviews that will start at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, which is 5 p.m. Baku, 5:30 in Kabul, 6 in Tashkent, 7 in Almaty, and 9 p.m. in Ulaanbaatar. An hour later, panel discussions involving international experts as well as members of the eCAMCA network will begin. I encourage everyone not only to attend these meetings, but to participate actively in these discussions. In closing, I want to thank in particular the Rumsfeld Foundation, Secretary Rumsfeld, the Foundation's Director, Sarah Tanucci, as well as Bridget Sedlacek for making this fellowship and forum possible for the past 12 years. The Central Asia-Caucasus Institute values this partnership very highly. We're looking forward this fall to welcoming a new group of fellows for the first time in 2 years, almost, and to welcome you all in a year's time for a real in-person eCAMCA forum in Almaty, Kazakhstan. Thank you very much.